Hello. How are you all wonderful people? Welcome in to Rehash the Rolls. I'm back. I'm back in the host chair. It's been a few months since I've been in this spot. Hopefully I still remember how to do this. It's very possible that I've forgotten. But welcome in. Oh my goodness. We've got our two wonderful guests tonight. We've got Mr. Braden and Mr. Patrick, who play Mr. Corvette and Mr. Everyone else. Mr. and Mrs. Everything else. Everything's else. Yes, and all the freaky it's that we are running into now. Hi, how are y'all doing? I realize we're all wearing hats tonight. Oh, that's so cool.
We are.
For you podcast listeners, you won't see that at all, but we're all wearing hats.
Doing good.
Mm-hmm.
Excited for this and all the wonderful things Patrick has to tell.
Mm-hmm. Or not tell. Cryptically allude to and not say anything about.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any real announcements or anything other than the fact that Heroic Tales is not happening this Friday. I and Nick are going to be out of town, so unless Braden wants to take over and do it.
Hey, first time DM right here for the random middle of a campaign.
Take over for a story that you don't know where it's going. Go for it. But yeah,
I'll go read some Redwall books in the meantime, just to be like, all right, let's use this and that.
The two major things that I can think of are that obviously we have Ready to Roll next week on the 26th, but then just as a heads up for everybody, we will not have Ready to Roll on the 9th of September when we normally would. So because my family will be in town and I will be otherwise occupied doing other variety of fun things. So we will not have Ready to Roll on the 9th. And then on the 17th of September, we are going to have a special in-person one-shot because we will all, well, most of us will be in the same state for the first time ever. So we're going to do that. It should be fun.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Yes, it should be good. And also that the Ready to Roll episode next week is our 1-year anniversary. So I'm thinking hopefully I can fish up something for us to do for a giveaway or something that night. Because I do have an extra D20 for giveaways and stuff, so we'll talk about that. But that'll probably happen, so make sure you're here because you could win a D20 and everyone needs more D20s. All right, let's get into this. There's a lot. This was a very intense and stressful episode, at least for me. I don't know, what about the two of y'all? How stressful was it?
Patrick?
It's a different kind of stress when you're the DM.
When you're orchestrating the stress?
Yeah, exactly. It's the stress of, I hope this turns out the way I want it to. I hope this will do. Yeah, I hope that I am, portraying things the way that I want them portrayed. And so, and then also the the stress of what are my players going to do to drastically change the plans I have. But no, it pretty much went according to plan last session. I did have to make some minor tweaks, but it pretty much went according to plan.
So the plan was to stress us out and make us cry.
Plan is always to stress you out and make you cry. Yeah. Always is the plan.
Yeah, it was a very stressful episode. I don't know. It was very stressful for me, but I think it's because Patrick, recently we've had lots of fun things for Corvette to figure out, and in real life Patrick and I are great friends, everyone, just so we know all those things are just in character being said. We love each other actually, so we're great. But yeah, it stresses me out because I'm like, oh well, I didn't plan to do that, but I'm doing that now. So
you didn't plan to be kidnapped for about an hour and a half of the session.
Yeah, that's always a rough thing.
That's a little bit of a stressful situation of like, am I alive right now or am I dead?
Like, I don't think I'm dead yet, but I'm not in a good place.
How bad is it?
Corvette found himself all by himself.
Oh, so sad.
I'll go through this time. That would have been fun. I should have brought Piotr with you. That would have been hilarious. But
It's both in that cell together, and it's like,
Oh
so
my
how are we
gosh.
getting out of this one?
yeah, it's always stressful when as the DM, because obviously you always hear don't split the party, don't split the party. It's stressful when you know for the story you need to split the party, and it's like, well, I don't want the different groups of players to get bored, so you got to make sure that you're bouncing back and forth. And so I did feel a little bit bad that Braden was sitting there for a long time, but I feel like he had a lot on his mind that he needed to think about.
And I think as long as you keep what the party, the two different parts of the party are doing stressful enough, it's interesting to watch. Because like Corvette was by himself for a good chunk of the session as well, but the entire time that he was gone, myself, I had to mute myself because I was literally screaming. I could not, like, it was one of those things of like, I couldn't keep myself silent. So at least for me, it wasn't boring when it wasn't our turn. So it was very, I don't know. But we didn't have quite as much solo time as Corvette did to sit and think. But yeah, that is one of our questions actually to Patrick. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much joy do you get from sending all of us into panic attacks during games?
Joy is not the proper term that I would use.
Okay, what is the proper term that you would use?
I don't know. I don't derive joy from the panic attacks. I derive joy from knowing that the story is compelling to the point where you feel like you can be, you can be stressed out from seeing what's happening in the story. That's what I enjoy. It's not the panic attacks. It's seeing the investment that you all have in the story. That's what gives me the joy. It's not so the panic attacks are just a sign that you're invested.
Mm-hmm. So what is the number between 1 and 10?
1 and 10, probably like a 10.
You have to keep such calm composure, but at the same time, on the inside, just like, yes, it's working. Yes. My evil schemes. All right, well, let's get into some stuff then. There's a bunch of things here. So this is actually a question left over from last time that we didn't get to Corvette. Corvette has mentioned to several people in his family that there was a likelihood of him losing his dragon touch nature. However, he has not told anyone in the party about it. What is his reason for not having done so?
Okay, going back before this session to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happened greatly influenced this question now. But he honestly, because the whole time, like the previous few weeks of like travel with the party and just things that have been going on, he like has not really had any real good or deep conversations with any of them. Like the only actual conversation he's had with this, like that's been meaningful, has been with Jelania when she stopped by his room and they just chatted for a few minutes. And like, things are going on, we need to talk more. It's like, okay, let's do that. That's like the most deep conversation he's had since they were in Norgarn. And so like, and that was like a few weeks of travel. Or of a couple of weeks of travel and events happening. So like he just has not had the time and like to like talk with anyone and tell them. That's the biggest thing. And besides that, he's just been telling a couple of his family members just because he's trying to resolve things. He's trying to resolve some issues with his family. And he's like, hey, heads up. This could help or hinder your plans. And
seems so casually thrown out there. Like, by the way, my number one attribute that you see me as.
Yeah.
Could be gone.
So yeah, that's what he thought was going to happen at the time. So,
but it never seemed like he felt so urgently about it that he like went to seek someone else out. Like I understand the whole situation on the boat was that like the other party members were essentially forcibly paired up with people that Corvette didn't really know. Like Piotr was forcibly paired up with Galena, and he doesn't really know Galena or that whole setup. And then of course Anya hanging out with Antivin the whole time, doesn't really know Antivin either. So, but what was his reason for not like seeking somebody out when he's having, like, Bronislav showed up in the crow's nest of like, hey, by the way, there's problems. Why didn't he go and ask someone about it like right then?
Uh, I think he's like really coming to terms with it, like knowing he's like, oh, this is something that's gonna affect my life. Like, it's not just like oh, like my guardian angel guide is mad at me, but we're still, I mean, bonded or whatever. He's like, no, things are happening. I was like, oh, dang, this is like a life decision. So he was wrapping his own head around it, trying to really figure out. I was like, hey, like, is what I'm doing, is the path that I've chosen so far, is that worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, has it been, it's been helping me do things that I've wanted to do, but is it worth it in the long run? So he's just like kind of getting his head around it. He did think he'd have a little more time. Personally, he's like, okay, I know things aren't looking great, but I
Mm-hmm.
got time to figure it out. And then tons of stuff just happened in Ostrava, and um, then he had to make his decision.
So then this follow-up question is kind of for both of you. Had there been a little bit more time for Corvette to have conversations with his party members about the situation, do you think that would have affected the choice? Because he kind of had to make the decision on his own in a somewhat forced situation.
True. The way uh that Corvette, okay, let's see. I wonder if there's like a question about this even later, but that, like, what was on the line, um being his sister and her kind of life, and kind of ridding this evil thing from her. Um that was, he was like, I will not bargain with her life. Like, I will do whatever choice he felt was the right and going to protect her. Even though she apparently hates him. So, um he, with that being on the line, it probably wouldn't have, but it would have been a lot harder because of different, maybe, conversations, or just different perspectives from his party members that he could have heard from. Um, but with what was on the line, if it was like a different situation or scenario, very well could have chosen just a different option. But
Hmm.
he was like, this is my sister. Like, I'm going with what I know is gonna work.
Mm-hmm. So then, Patrick, on your side, what was the decision-making process behind having that moment be in such a stressful way, and like, instead, or in that way, with Tatiana kind of being involved as well?
Um, show Corvette's true nature and true desires. You know, who we really are, in my opinion, who you really are, and what you want your character to be, particularly in Dungeons and Dragons, really comes out in those kind of stressful decision making moments. And so when there's
Good
an
job.
important, so there's because like the way, I'd been thinking about it at this point. Corvette had been like dilly dallying for, you know, several weeks, in game at this point, and out of game at this point, for, just kind of going along. And he was waffling. He was, while he was leaning towards one way or the other, it wasn't so much, it wasn't like a firm decision. And so it was all right, Corvette needs to make a decision. Here's the situation that I know is going to be stressful for Corvette, so that way Corvette then has to make the decision, and Corvette and it'll get down to Corvette's, true nature, um, and actually get Braden to think about the decision as a whole. Because if I had just let it sit, and then and it had been like, yeah, just come to me when you have a decision, Braden, a few weeks down the line, Braden might have come to me like, yeah, cool, I've chosen Eladin, cool, and then we go on that way. Whereas now this decision has much more impact and more meaning, because it was made during that stressful moment.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So then there's a question here. How hard was this decision for you to make, Brayden?
Uh, so I totally wanted to actually choose Eladin, like, myself, because I thought it would be very exciting to kind of and who knows what's gonna happen in the future and all this stuff. But it was like choose Eladin, and see what consequences come from not having a saint be kind of a guide or a patron anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing kind of the consequences of that, like fallout with his father or nobility, just kind of going down that path, like what would that look like? But Corvette, um, it was still a hard choice, a bit, because he did enjoy the. It's interesting because like even though it was Eldon giving him the power and he like knows it, but he could almost pretend like it was his own abilities that were. It's like, hey, I'm more than an Aesimer, I'm more than nobility, I'm somebody else, I'm my own person. And it's also interesting thinking about it, it's like the things he was doing is from Eldon, it wasn't himself. So it's like he's got to come to terms with that still. But when it came down to it, he's like, I trust that Bronislav, like, we have problems, we have issues, but I trust that he is good. I trust that Silhana is good, and that they do intend for good things to happen.
Gotcha.
And with that, he was like, Eladin, we've trusted each other so far. We've been on this fun ride together, but I don't know what your intentions are. Like Bronislav irks me a lot sometimes, but I know what his intentions are, at least. And with that, with the consequence being his sister, and don't know what would have happened if he chose Eladin, he's like, I'm gonna use his power to save her.
Mm-hmm.
Use Bronislav's power to save my sister.
Gotcha.
And if I can interject just something
Yeah.
interesting, it's going to be interesting because Corvette's journey is now going to have him discover that more the power is in himself now rather than before. Then we would have found out with Eladin, and the journey with Eladin would have been more of a journey of you are not as powerful as you think, and that your power is at the whim of this being that could just take it away in a matter of seconds if he so desired. So it's very interesting, that the story is. I think you're still gonna you're gonna explore the themes that you wanted to explore, just in a different way than you thought you would.
And definitely the more I've thought about it since, I'm like, no, there's still a lot of different things I never thought about until now to explore, and to still have a lot of character growth between Corvette and Bronislav. With that relationship, it's still like, it's not perfect. It's still not like really where they probably want it to be, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like starting in a different trajectory now.
How much do you expect their relationship to change? This is a question that's on here, and it is for both of you. Like, how do you expect, like, Corvette to change his relationship with Bronislav, and like with other people? How do you expect this to change? How much?
You want to start, Patrick? I talked for a while on the
Fine.
last one.
At least from Bob Bronislav's, and like, I'll let you guys discover how mostly what happens with Bronislav, but he will be more vocal. He will not necessarily pop in to visit Corvette in the same way he has been, but he'll at least talk to Corvette more and give a little bit of that guidance that the party feels like they've been needing. And it's because it's the party just has had so many influences on them. Maeve, the Dark Priestess, Eladin, Bronislav. Now there's one less influence, and so Bronislav and the rest of the Saints feel like they can probably guide the party in a better direction now and have less competition. So we will be hearing more from Bronislav than we were before. So,
Well, that's exciting. I'll just be talking to the air sometimes, that's all. Let's see. I don't know. Like, their relationship's going to be very interesting to develop. I think because of this choice, this decision, it's like, hey, I'm trusting that you want to do what's good and that you can help the situation and you have power. Like, let's put it to use then. And I think it's gonna be Corbett's gonna try. It's gonna be hard at first to trust him completely, or to be like, just buddies, because he's like, I don't. We just he went through that traumatic experience before, and it's like I felt abandoned by you, but now you help me. So it's like, well, I realize I believe that you want to do good and can help me. So let me figure this out as I go. But and I have no idea how it'll affect or influence his relationships with the party and everyone else.
Gonna be an interesting reunion and interesting conversations, I'm sure. I'm very interested to see what everybody's reactions and responses are to that. But kind of
Actually,
go ahead.
I think that Jelania is probably going to be the only one with a major opinion on it. Everyone else is kind of
Very true.
indifferent to the, not necessarily indifferent, but like, I mean, for lack of a better term, indifferent to the existence of the saints in Silhana. It's like they're, they're like the Easter and I hope I don't offend anyone. I'm not trying to offend anyone. They're like the people who go to church on Easter and Christmas. Like they're like, oh yeah, God's there. All that. Everything like that. They're they do it, but it's only on those special important occasions that they feel the need to pay. At least that's how how Piotr and Galina currently come across to me. It's just like, yeah, Silhana's there, but except for the major holidays, we don't really do anything with that. And then so yeah, with and that's fine. So Jelania is the only one who has. I'm trying to find the right word. Jelania is the only one who has huge opinions on the Saints outside of Antivin and Corvette.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Antivin's on one side, Jelania is on the complete opposite.
Oh, yeah, and Antivin's not even really on the other side. Antivin's, but because of his in influencing the wild spirits, integrating the wild spirits into his beliefs, it's a little bit different. So he's not as fanatical about the church as Artyom was.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of going down that branch of like the relationship of the party with the saints and stuff, and Jelania specifically. Why did Yarrick come to warn the party about Corbett's abduction? He and Jelania definitely don't have a good relationship, but he apparently broke some rules in doing so. How much punishment did he risk in making that choice?
And I quickly interject before you answer, Patrick. I just love that both of our like saint guides broke rules to save me. I was like, thank you.
I love that Galina and Piotr could see him. Like, that is freaking amazing. Because she hasn't mentioned anything to anyone that he exists, and all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, there's my devil dad just like hanging out in the road with us. Like, no problem.
With in regards to that, with the last conversation before that one that Jelania and Yarrick had, really stuck with Yarrick. Yarrick has been in his own little world, in hell for millennia at this point. Just fighting his war, not really being concerned. He waiting for tiefling souls to show up to fuel his army. That's it. That's all he's been concerned about. Well, and believe it or not, Jelania is the first tiefling in history to have been like, hey, I want to see what Yarrick does if I pray to him. And so Yarrick was curious. And so Yarrick feels kind of a kinship with Jelania because even though they're different, they have a lot of similarities, obviously. And so when Jelania was like, you need to get your head out of the clouds, you need to
sulfur clouds, not the heavenly clouds.
Not the heavenly clouds. You need to, pay attention to what's happening in the real world. It stuck out to Yarrick, and he was trying, and he was thinking, and I was thinking, and personally, I was thinking like, okay, what are ways that Yarrick would show to Jelania that he is caring more than he was before, and that was the idea that came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it. He just wanted to He just wanted to show that, okay, I'm thinking outside of my little war, because because that's the thing about the war in hell, is that it's an unwinnable war for either side. And so, basically it's just a war of containment and, preventing the devils from breaching, the veil and getting into Inara. But so he was like, okay, maybe I should go participate maybe I should go participate in a war, that is winnable.
Gotcha. That's very interesting. The concept of it being a winnable war versus not, for sure. Yeah. That will be a whole interesting situation to see how that works out moving forward, especially now that the party is aware that it's a thing, because they were not up until that point. And I don't know if Anya would have ever really told them about it, because it was like an embarrassing thing for her to like basically admit like that she said a prayer to somebody. Like that's kind of an embarrassing thing. So now she's gonna probably get forced to admit it.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on from that question, we've got a lot more like specific, kind of more theoretical ones that I don't know how much we are going to be able to answer them. Let's see.
I do not ship Shalanya and Yarrick, considering their relationship to
No,
each
he's like
other.
her great something grandpa.
Yeah.
No way. All right, so this is back to Braden. Tatiana was very harsh and cold to Corbett. Do you think that this was because of her possession? Do you think that it will change now that she has been freed?
Was it because of the possession? No, I don't think so. I think that was her real, true feelings. And Patrick, you're so good. Oh, I almost cried a few times the last 2 sessions. So, no, I think what she said to him, was her. And again, with the creature, that was using her, had said her hatred and her kind of just her anger and all that stuff made her a good host, made her easy to just take control of, possess. And so I think those are her real feelings. Will they change? I think a little bit. I think hopefully, again, this might just be me and Corvette, is like, hopefully this means she doesn't want to throw me into the ocean. He's hoping it's like, okay, at least just be okay with me being alive and whatever. Like, I'm cool with kind of you running the show. And so that's what his thoughts are, and I think they'll change it a little bit. I think their relationship will improve somewhat, where they can just be at least like okay in each other's presence.
Right. He seemed very willing to immediately tell her the entire situation. Instead of just like, oh no, I need to just hang around you, like, something weird's going on. He was very, very open immediately about the entire situation. Found that very interesting.
Yes, he absolutely did not want her to go through the same experience he did of massacring a whole bunch of people. Too late, but
yeah, they're a few weeks too late.
As far as he knew, like it was something like that was gonna happen, because he had only known of massacres in like a lot, like his own doing, and then up in Cordovan, Italy, and so he thought it would be something like that. And so he was trying to convince her, he's like, with my sister, I'm like, what can I say? Because he's like, she hates my guts. She does not want to be around me. What in the world could I say that would convince her to be okay with it for one day? And I'm like, the truth? Let's just go with that. Because there's nothing more ridiculous than I can make up. So.
And her response immediately being kind of like this acceptance and immediate challenge of like, all right, you're gonna give up like everything. Like basically like, I don't want you to be my brother. How about like we really make this official that you're not my brother and you're not my dad's son anymore. But your dad said no. Are you gonna respect that, or are you gonna be like, no, I'm out?
We shall see.
Yeah, there's so many things that I'm wondering of like, it like, is she going to become as involved in the party and like the story and stuff as like Vitaly has, because Vitaly was also like a victim of a bunch of like the plots and stuff going on, and now he is aware of everything and somewhat involved. Is she gonna be the same? I don't know. I don't want to go into it too much because I don't want to, like, you know, spoilers, and also maybe we don't know either, but there's so many things that I want to know about her and what's gonna go down with her.
Yeah, I'm excited. She's still gonna hate Corbett, but she'll be like, you saved me from that creepy thing, okay. I think that's what it's gonna be like. It's like, hey, you can be in here, this city for now.
Yeah. Oh, I like Tatiana. I think she's really cool. I think she's pretty dope. Let's see. Let's look through more of these.
Till she kidnapped me, Corbett, and
it's true.
drugged me.
That's true. Sad. That was a very scary moment, for sure.
I was like, no.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Patrick, how long had Tatiana been possessed? Can you tell us that?
Let's see. Ever since Corvette committed his massacres. So long Tatiana had been possessed.
It's a really long time ago. What, maybe like a year? Something like that?
About a year.
That is a really long time.
Yeah. And I mean, the important thing to remember about that is that first, Elenov, that's the name of the creature.
That's right.
Tried to possess Vitaly first. That's where, you know, Svetlana.
Vitaly.
I'm sorry.
Vitalik is your brother. Vitaly is my brother. We have all the same siblings. They just have different pronunciations.
I know. I have an sister named Anya, and I was like, oh yeah.
Sveta delivered Elenov to Vitaly, and you might, and don't know if this was caught, but divine protection after the massacre happened is what caused Elenov to be forced out and then go south, and then again the divine protection around to Corvette caused Elenov to get forced out and find refuge in Tatiana, because she didn't have that divine protection that was protecting the other two, and so that was the important thing. And then Elenov also ended up changing his strategy to, okay, instead of maybe these mass massacres to feed me and get me ready for my next evolution, I should probably take my time and, you know, do small things here and there, you know, because that's the thing is, you know, Tatiana wasn't always, you know, there were times, you know, it started off with, you know, Elenov taking control for brief moments, but then the stronger Elenov became, by the end, Elenov was able to, you know, be completely in control of Tatiana.
Tom Riddle's diary.
Seriously. But hey, Branislav destroyed one of Morpheus's kids. I mean, I was like, oh, you're a child of the big bad one. Nice to meet you.
I need to go back and listen to that part again. I had an emergency, like I needed to go to the bathroom so bad, and my headset was cutting out while I was in the bathroom. So I need to rewatch it a little bit closer. There is a question about Elenov, though. After Elenov was banished, the Profane Guard and the creepy crawly creatures turned on each other. Are we as viewers to understand that this is a compelled alliance instead of a voluntary one?
That's one way to look at it. Another way, okay, so I'm trying to think of how much I can reveal. The creatures, the Skrull as they are called, the way that they work is that it is kind of a hive mind-esque thing. And so Elenov was the being controlling the lesser Skrull. So when Elenov died, the lesser Skrull, who would normally have only the intelligence of animals reverted to that intelligence because they didn't have anything controlling and compelling them. Um, it can also be understood from other times we've seen the Profane Guard use the Skrull creatures that, you know, the Skrull can be controlled via magic, but because Elenov was there, none of the Profane Guardsmen were exercising their magic to control. And so, yeah, you could say it is a compelled alliance in the sense of that some of these beings that they're dealing with need to be controlled. And if they don't have a master controlling them, they will just ravage and consume whatever they can.
Gotcha. How much more can we learn about the Skrull? Or is this something that is plot important and we will learn in game later?
I mean, you definitely will be learning more about the Skrull. They are important to the plot, and so you will be learning more about the Skrull, particularly since they are such a big thing for the Profane Guard.
Great, more bugs. Yay.
But
No,
you
not
actually
with faces.
you probably know more about the Skrull than you think.
Oh
I
boy.
will say an important thing that maybe if you haven't listened to it in a while is to go back and listen to Darkest Devotion.
Oh no. Okay.
That can give you some more hints.
I mean, I definitely did feel a little bit of the same vibes as, the person whose character probably went crazy during Darkest Devotions and nearly going crazy again as Jelania. I definitely did feel some similarities there. Quite frightening.
That was the goal. So, but you will be learning more about the Skrull, because they are very important to the story as a whole. Excuse me.
That's terrifying.
And if you have, and like obviously, I'll have to judge. If there are specific questions about the Skrull, I'll have to judge whether or not what to answer, because there's some stuff I'm willing to talk about, but then there's some stuff that's important to figure out in story.
Darn.
Question then: are the bounty hunters who are going after Piotr going to be Skrull then?
Oh no. Sleep with
a horrible idea.
Sleep with a can of Raid under your pillow from now on.
Yep, you'll have to find out.
Bug be gone.
Bug be gone. Yeah, they're really creepy. We were talking about it after, how they remind us all of the the Seekers from Skyrim.
I remember that.
Freaky things.
And they definitely are Lovecraftian inspired, so that kind of stuff is what inspired the Skrull. So
yeah, there's a question in here about were the Lovecraftian vibes freaking us out?
They weren't freaking me out.
Yes.
Surprise.
I was trying to picture Corbett surrounded by all of those creepy things, plus his possessed sister, wanting to suck his soul out. So
yeah,
I actually was pretty creeped out when Patrick showed us the tall tentacle-faced Skrull, and I was like, okay, no thanks. Please just leave them, outside while you suck out my soul, please.
Just let them wait at the door. Can we do this in private while you Dementors kiss me right now?
What happened?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, good stuff. All right. So this is
chocolate.
Yeah, that'll make you feel happier. Let's see if this question makes you feel happier. The Dark Priestess, maybe, as far as we've been led to believe, might have been trying to save the party members from the fire in the theater by summoning them away. But she didn't act at all during last session when Corbett was in real peril. Do you think this is because she was unaware he was in trouble, that she didn't care, or that she was in on the plot?
Dang it, Patrick, you can't answer this. I
could. I won't, but I could.
You could. You tell us the actual answer. That'd be great. I think because she's messed up summoning the whole party to her twice now. Unless I'm missing another time that's blanking from me. But as far as I remember, it's 2 different times that she's tried to teleport them all to her and has messed up. And so I think like my first guess is that she just like something's blocking her, some other power, she can't do it right now, and so, or maybe like that was what, the next day that this happened. So maybe she just can't do it that soon.
Mhm.
However, the alternate thought of she wanted to still sacrifice all of us is a terrifying uh, theory. And I actually hope she's kind of like a third party, just like, you know, go do some good. I don't want to die. So let's do that. I'm
Maybe,
your employer.
maybe
That'd be
she
kinda
wants
cool.
Morphus to come back, but she has like a phobia of insects, and so the fact that the Profane Guard at large is working with the Skrull, she's like, I'm not about this. We're gonna go spray raid over all these dudes, and then we'll go do the sacrifices my way, bug free.
Yeah. I do like how it sounded like she was frazzled and not being able to help us. I was like, huh, okay, she seems more not like some almighty deity, just a powerful, wizard or something. It's like, this isn't working, and she's like just really stressed out that we're not around.
Yeah. Patrick, are we gonna meet her next session? Is this gonna happen?
Are you gonna get back
Thank
to the city
you.
by midnight?
I mean, that's the plan, I think. That's kind of up to you whether or not there's too many obstacles for us to get there, right?
It's up to you how you handle the obstacles I put in front of you.
I guess that's true.
I will just say I am planned for all eventualities.
Cool. Good. Yeah, that was definitely an interesting bit in the very beginning of the session with Galena attempting to kind of tell us what the situation was that she learned from the captain without directly saying it. For whatever reason, it very much caught me off guard. Like a couple of things of like, I was expecting Anya to kind of feel a certain way about it, and then she very much went in a complete opposite direction, and I was not expecting that.
Like part of it had to do with how Galena presented it, because it wasn't like Galena just came and spilled all the information. She was she was very doled it out in bits, confirmed information, and made sure that this information would probably be accurate before she talked about it. And so I think that definitely affected the way that the party handled the situation overall.
Yeah. I mean, it almost felt like she was throwing shade of just like, oh, I know something important that I'm not gonna share, just the way that you guys know different things and you haven't shared with me. Thank you very much. Like, that's kind of how it felt for like a half a second before I was like, oh no, she's just trying to be careful because apparently we're being watched all the time. But maybe there was shade being thrown. Very possible. All right. So we only have a couple questions left. Patrick. While the Profane Guard was not attempting one of the 6 sacrifices, they were defeated in this moment. Will that delay or hinder them in some of their next attempts at other sacrifices?
It'll definitely delay. The Skrull, without going into too much detail, the Skrull are going to be very important to the Profane Guard, but they need things that are capable of controlling huge amounts of Skrull, which is part of why they were trying to get Elenov matured. And so
Oh, don't like that word.
because Elenov, that's what was happening. Elenov was maturing, evolving.
Ugh,
Butterfly.
don't like.
Elenov
Do not
is
like.
gonna become a butterfly.
Gross.
Exactly. So because Elenov was not able to, mature and help give them something to exert control over more Skrull, it'll definitely put a hamper in their plans because they won't be able to control as much of their army as they would like.
Gotcha. So many things. All right, the last question that we have currently here is for Braden. And we've kind of talked about this already. Are you happy with the choice that you made between Aladdin and the Saints?
I think I would have been happy with both. Like, initially, like, am I happy after and thinking about it? Absolutely. I'm really excited to kind of see what happens with it. And
no regrets?
no regret. The only regret The only regret is like not being able to see what that path would have been like, but or like just kind of just figuring that out. But I really am excited to play Corvette now with kind of these new situations that have come up. And yeah, there's gonna be fun things that are gonna affect Corvette now, and I'm kind of excited to see how those, I don't know, how it plays out.
And you're fully okay with the Saints having like reign and say over your soul, and not having it yourself, the way that Eladin was saying that you might have?
That's like a thing he's gonna talk to Bronislav about more. Like, so what does this all mean? Because and like a big part of it was of like just the thing why he wanted. Again, we talked about this before. It's just like he wants to, be himself. He wants people to see him for being Corvette, not for being an Aesmer, not for being a noble. Like those are the things like he was born as, and literally everyone sees him as those things, and they just assume X, Y, and Z about Corvette, and he's like, okay, so yeah, some of those things are true, but there's more to me than just that. And that's what he's like, when he was faced with the option of exploring that more, of being like, hey, this doesn't have to define me, that's what was really tempting about that choice. So now he's gonna have to figure out more, how can he be himself with the things that he's just been his whole life. Like how can he show who he is, and not just kind of break out of the mold that people have kind of forced upon him.
Interesting. Not gonna go looking for Eladin if you start getting mad at the Saints, because he like
Who
fully
knows?
disappeared, right? He like Eladin is not around.
So yeah, Corvette stabbed the guy and called upon Bronislav to banish the evil thing, and then Eladin disappeared. So
we're gonna go back to Airmog, and Mayor Leo is gonna be there with Eladin. Like that's what's gonna be the deal. I'm calling it now. Never trust a man named Leo. It's
never trust a man named Leo. Also, I'm terrified if something that's gone, unanswered yet, Patrick, I'm still waiting, is what the heck happened to Tian? And now did Eladin go to Tian? Now Tian owns him, and that would be terrifying.
Ooh.
You may find out next session.
Oh!
He's nearby.
Or it could be 6 months from now. Who knows?
Or it could be 6 months.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. I am planned for all eventualities. Just depends on how quickly you guys get to the person who can answer all your questions.
Oh man. All right. Well, are there any other things that we want to talk about? Any questions that you have for each other? For me? For the chat? For Bronislav and the Saints above? All right. I think we're all good to call it there then. Thank you guys so much for coming and talking to me, hanging out. Nick will be back in a couple of weeks, I promise. He will be here to do the job that is his job. And we'll be back with Ready to Roll a week from tomorrow for our 1-year anniversary. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so exciting. Also, we have distractions and diversions on Monday, don't we?
We actually don't. I realized that I can't. I have my brother's freshman convocation to go to. I was gonna message everyone and be like, "Hey, we have to cancel that." So we don't have distractions and diversions.
All
Apologies. Right. We'll return with that next month.
No video games for you. It's not allowed.
I will still play video games anyway.
Probably play video games anyway as well. All right. Well, chat, we love you so much. Thank you so much for coming by, and we'll see you around. Bye.